So I thought I'd do away with the pointless introduction of my face waving and saying hello and just get straight into the photography, since that's pretty much what these videos are about. This is the second roll of film that I shot in Genoa back in 2017. This first shot is down in the Porto Antico, the old port, which is sort of a massive redevelopment area from the looks of it. There was like a big shopping centre and let's just say a ton of very, very expensive yachts parked up all over the place. You might or might not be able to see from this photograph from the girl's hair in the centre that it's blowing a bit. It was really, really windy down here. Although it was very, very sunny, it was actually pretty cold. I was walking around with a coat on for most of the time down here. What I've obviously tried to do in this photograph is to frame the main central people, the girl and the girl sat behind her, which you can't really see, into vaguely the center of the image, and frame them with the trees and the leaves around them, which has sort of worked kind of well. I was going for a bit of the repetition of these benches that kind of repeat onwards into the distance, but the angle that I've shot this at, you can't really see. You just see some of the tree trunks spreading off into the distance instead. I quite like this though. I like the light sort of hitting that girl right in her face. The shadows don't cast anything. The shadows are leading towards her instead. And then there's also just that little bit of extra there. You got the guy walking past his really long shadow spreading across the center of the image, and the pigeon right next to him as well. So I'm quite happy with this one. Plus the colors of the trees, the green and the gold and yellow of it, I think looks quite nice. Now this is the kind of thing I'm talking about when I say about repetition. You can probably guess what I was thinking of here. We've got repeating lines of the boardwalk, repeating lines of the lamppost on the left and the right leading off into the distance. You've got the leading lines through the very centre of the image on all sides of the image. Actually, you've got the paving on one side, you've got the lifted road on the right hand side there. Everything sort of leading down through the middle of the image and off into the distance. Annoyingly, we've got people on the left-hand side. Obviously, I was trying to photograph the group of boys who were walking away, very central in the image. They detract a little bit from it, the ones on the left-hand side. But other than that, I'm really quite pleased with this. I think this worked out quite well. Let me know what you think of this. I quite like it. So the building in the last photograph on the back left is a museum about Genoese kind of naval history. Genoa being a major naval power in the Middle Ages and medieval, up to the Renaissance period actually. I spent pretty much the entire of the day in that museum. As this was in the autumn, the days were quite short, so this photograph looks later than it is. This is probably only around about 5:30, 6 p.m, maybe sun going down. Over the Mediterranean. I was walking back from the museum, I should say, and just noticed how the light was catching on the clouds and on the water itself of the port here. So I just composed an image that kind of had boats on either side, big open space in the center, so you can see the reflection of the light on the water, obviously the sky as well. I mean, I really, really like this one. This is a favourite of mine actually. I've got this up on the wall somewhere. Let me know what you think about this. This one didn't quite work as well as the last one. Same kind of situation, just a little bit further along the port on the walk home that evening. I've obviously tried to compose it slightly differently with boats on the right hand side, and then we've got this prow of this sort of, I don't know what I would call it, like a galleon, I would say, with the flag floating there. Unfortunately, it's not really come out as well as I wanted, because I've obviously tried to capture as much of the colour of the sky and it reflecting in the water. I was always going to end up working with a lot of shadow and a lot of underexposure in the foreground, which is basically what's happened here. It's a little bit, it seems like it's caught in the middle actually. There's not quite enough shadow to make the boats completely in silhouette so that they're not detracting from everything. It looks a little bit messy, if anything, like I haven't quite underexposed it enough in the foreground to capture enough of the light. But I think the one before this worked a lot better. Not quite sure what I was thinking here. This is a little bit later on that evening. There was some sort of some sort of market selling various chocolates and things. There was quite a few stalls set up in one of the squares that I had to walk through to get home that evening. Yeah, I thought I'd stop and take a photograph of one of the stalls. It hasn't really worked out very well at all, has it? You can clearly see from the grain structure of this image that it's very underexposed. I've obviously tried to photograph it thinking that the lights above the guy behind this stall were going to be enough to give it something, which it is around the light and the very near points nearest to the light. But other than that, you can't really see anything. And where it is dark, you can see it's sort of starting to degrade a bit and getting very, very grainy and not nice grain either. I mean, there's a woman to the right hand side which you can barely see because she's basically a blur. It's not worked out very well, unfortunately. Similar kind of thing to the last one there. Not quite as bad because this is obviously a lot closer to the light source itself. Annoyingly, I've decided to stand behind some random guy on the right hand side, which is blocking most of the light, so it hasn't worked out as well as it could. At least you can make out the face, sort of make out the face of the woman serving behind the counter there, and the person buying from them. I mean, their arm is in focus, I guess. The darker areas are again very, very grainy, very, very out of focus and underexposed. But I mean, some of the middle ground stuff looks all right. I don't know why I've decided to get that van in the background focused almost pin sharp. But the chocolate in the sort of foreground on the front of the stall looks okay. To the left, not quite so much. More kind of middle to the right looks okay. And this is it in the daytime. Lighting much better, as you can tell. For some reason, I've taken a stupidly composed shot here. It doesn't really show anything at all, does it? I mean, I'm guessing I was trying to take a photograph of this nun buying some chocolate, but there's nothing interesting. It's just the back of a nun's head, isn't it? It's not really anything at all. I really, really should have composed this a little bit better. This one I quite like. Obviously, there's an awful lot of shadow here because, as you can tell from the top of the image, this is shot directly into sunlight. That was on purpose. I noticed that the way the sun was shining through the water on this fountain was giving it this particular glow. I mean, if you look at it, you can literally see almost individual water droplets. I mean, obviously you can't; they're too small. But it looks like that. It's more like spray and everything coming off the fountain. I think that sort of gives it a little bit of a shimmer to it. And I think that looks quite nice. Added to it, the fact that we've got these two people just sat down. I'm guessing they're eating something. It looks like they've got like a cup of coffee in their hand, but I think they've got like a fork or something in their other hand. So I think they're eating ice cream of some kinds. And then they're mostly in shadow, but you've just got a bit of a sort of a halo effect around their head, around like the top of their coats. Where the sun is hitting them. And then even the paving is sort of glowing with this warm morning sunlight that's hitting it as well. So I quite like this. It's not exactly a perfect image, but I quite like the look of it. Incidentally, that fountain is massive, and when it was really, really windy, it was blowing water absolutely everywhere. So I got soaked every time I walked past this thing. It seemed like a strange design for a fountain in a city that's basically on the sea and is very, very windy all the time. And here we've got some street photography where I look like I've actually finally worked out how to make an image that's quite nice in that genre. The seafront area, the old seafront area, is covered over with these portico kind of things, which, with the direction of the light coming in the morning, just leaves these really long shadows and big shafts of light coming through it. So all you have to do is stand around and wait for someone to walk into the light. I quite like this. I really quite like this. Annoyingly, there's a McDonald's sign to the left, which makes it seem very much that it's modern, other than the man with a backpack and the guy with the sunglasses and all that kind of stuff. It's a medieval kind of built area with this horrible modernistic look to it. I quite like how this looks. I've got a big thing about light and long shadows being cast through areas like this. So I'm a big fan of this. and you've probably got used to these by now. That you know, a 12 image roll of film, I only seem to ever have 10 images. So yeah, I don't really know what this is. I went for a walk and just went for a sit down in a park somewhere. This is a very autumnal image, isn't it? Most of the trees are completely devoid of any leaves, and the ones that do have leaves, they are very, very dead leaves. I like the colours, but other than that, the blue and the yellow and gold is kind of quite nice, but the rest of it's a bit grey looking, isn't it? I'm not really quite sure what I was thinking of. I'm guessing I was trying to get some sort of repetitive lines with the tree line and with these concrete benches sort of spreading out into the distance. But the fact that I was sat down on one means that sort of the angle is a bit too low for you to really see things leading off into the distance. It's more kind of there's one and then there's another one plonked behind it. Same with the trees. So yeah, this is the final image of this roll of film, and as you can see, it's a dud. It's not a great one. Hello, hope you've been enjoying these videos so far. Obviously, as usual, like and subscribe and all that kind of thing. If you like my photography, go check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Post on there pretty regularly, and obviously keep coming back here. You know, if you want to subscribe to this, we've got plenty of content coming up every week. Thank you.